After he'd given me the new information, he said, "You will try and keep in touch with her, won't you?" Well, before I can explain, he's put the receiver down. How can I keep in touch? She doesn't have a mobile phone, and I'm certain she's never used a computer, so emails are not an option. Pigeon post is more likely to reach her. Of course, I could write her a letter. Do you know, I haven't written an actual letter for years. I've never written her a letter. I've sent her several postcards on my travels, views of Spain, the pyramids, Africa, even the Far East. But I've never really known what she felt about my travelling. We never discussed it. She scarcely mentioned it. Although the cards were always put in a prominent position on her mantelpiece amongst her other knickknacks. Maybe, thinking about it, it was jealousy, her apparent disinterest. I remember being told once that when she was younger, she did go abroad, the first in the family. She flew by plane from London to Parma, one of the perks of her well-paid job in the city. I recall it now because I recently found an ornate silver bracelet that she once gave me years ago, purportedly from Spain. Letter writing can be difficult, dangerous even. You have to be careful. You have to try and tell the truth. And that's apart from getting the spelling right. Once the words are committed to paper, they cannot be retracted. The words form in your head, and before you know it, there they are, in front of you, down on the paper. How would I start? How are you? Oh, I do hope you're keeping well. The weather here has been beautiful. What's it like where you are? None of these are appropriate in the circumstances. Perhaps I could evoke shared memories of events, of birthday parties, weddings, people, places visited. But how can I be sure that her memories equate to mine? We may have been in the same place at the same time with the same people, but our life experiences have been different, not shared. When I first got to know her, really got to know her, spent time with her, she was still living with her parents. She was carefree, well-read, an avid theatre goer, generous to a fault, and glamorous. Well, at least I thought so. All the things that I aspired to. Often, at the weekends, we'd travel to London on the train, and we'd visit art galleries and museums, and eat at elegant restaurants where I'd pick things on the menu that I'd never heard of before. On one occasion, we were having lunch. I don't recall what restaurant or who we were with. I began to feel unwell, coughing, feeling sick, trying to catch my breath. I was acutely embarrassed because I didn't want to attract attention to myself. And then, slowly, I started to notice that one by one, other diners were similarly affected. A thick, heavy haze had begun to fill the restaurant with a dreadful smell, and then in the next moment I was pushed out onto the pavement with the other diners coughing and spluttering. Fire engines arrived and then an ambulance, although I don't recall there being any genuine casualties. But she was distraught, beside herself. worried that something dreadful might have happened to me while she was responsible for keeping me well and safe. At that moment, I felt important, cherished, and, if I'm honest, powerful to have evoked such emotions. On other occasions, we'd stroll along by the river, and she'd encourage me to admire the architecture as she pointed out famous landmarks. She'd tell me facts about historic London as we walked through the alleyways, joining one famous city street to another. She even took me shopping in Dickens and Jones. On one warm Sunday afternoon, we went to the park, Regent's Park probably, and we admired the daffodils and fed the ducks, laughing at their antics. And then we gradually made our way to the famous corner house for that much anticipated tea, when we were suddenly approached by a man with smiling eyes, and I was introduced to John. I suppose I should have realised that meeting this man was not a coincidence. He was much older than her, someone she worked for apparently, and I noticed that he wore a wedding ring. My naivety at that time was breathtaking. Oh, but that was years ago now. I must get back to the matter in hand. What's stopping me? What can I write? What can I put down to help her, to remember, to recall? Perhaps something about her school days during the war, the air raids and the shelters, things she reminisced about in her better days. Perhaps happy times with the family. Her sister, Anne, my mother, and her mum and dad, my grandparents. In her mind, they're still alive, living in the family home, around the corner, out of sight. Oh, I wish that I could fill her head with possibilities, of ideas for future adventures, just as she did for me all those years ago. But I can't. Her possibilities are few now. Although I hope that she can dream of happiness shared, that she can recall John's face, his smile, his smiling eyes, the secret times that they shared together. I hope so. I do hope so.